Hello and welcome to the I Am Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Vickie, and man, am I glad that you decided to click and spend a little time with me today. Today's guest is Zoe Carter. She is the founder of the Next Level Boss course. How are you, Zoe?
I am great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. So you guys, Zoe, she is a mindset and manifestation coach for entrepreneurs. So Zoe, tell us about the course.
So I created a course called the Next Level Boss course. It is a course for entrepreneurs who want to take their business to the next level without having to feel like they have to hustle their life away. As of right now, it is a 7-week course. However, it is always growing. So each time I launch it, it gets a little bit longer because I add more to it. We actually just closed an enrollment period. So the next enrollment period will be either the end of March or beginning of April. So I'll be sure to announce it when the cart is open, but it is my baby. It is my love. I pour so much knowledge and love into it. And I'm really liking the results that people are having so far. It's been absolutely amazing.
Nice. And congratulations. Congratulations. Because this is your first business venture. You just started it. And I mean, it looks like it's doing great.
Thank you. Yes, it is. I couldn't be happier. I mean, I'm excited for it to grow, but I must say I'm very happy with it being the first launch, how well it's gone.
No, absolutely. And you know what, you guys, so Zoe has a very interesting story. And honestly, after learning about your story, I'm not surprised that this business is going well for you because there is no quit in Zoe. There is no quit in Zoe. So Zoe actually, and I'll let you share more about it, but you guys, Zoe at one point was a homeless teenager, and now she's gone on to make 6+ figures as in her career. So Zoe, tell us, how do you even end up being homeless to begin with?
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of a compressed version of the story. So my childhood up until I was 13 was pretty normal. I mean, I had parents that were divorced, but I saw both of them. My dad is absolutely fantastic. I have a very close relationship with him. But I lived primarily with my mom. And when I was 13, my mom was getting her second divorce. She was divorcing my stepdad at the time. And she said that we were going to move to another state so she could be closer to her family. And I had at the time 2 sisters that were going to be staying with their dad. And it was just me and my mom that were leaving. And once we moved to the new state, we actually moved to Texas, got settled with her family, and she ended up going down the wrong path. She got involved with the wrong people, into gangs, into drugs, and not working. And so because of that, we ended up with nowhere to go, no income. There was just no stability, and she was dating a guy that was this gang leader. He was super violent to her, violent to me. It wasn't an ideal situation at all. And we really just ended up sleeping on whoever's couch was open that night. Sometimes we would stay in people's garages. It was just a night and day difference than what I was used to. And eventually it got so bad to the point where I thought, oh my God, if I don't leave this situation, I'm going to die is what I was feeling. Like, if I don't get out of here, I'm not going to make it. So I left to go live with another relative that lived about an hour and a half away. That situation was not any better. So I left again. But this time I remember I packed my bag because I was still going to school. I was in high school at this time. I was in the 9th grade. So I packed my clothes for the next day in a bag, and I hitchhiked to the parents of my high school boyfriend at the time. And I knocked on their door. It was super awkward because my boyfriend wasn't home and his parents didn't speak English. And I just showed up on their doorstep with my clothes and was like, can I stay here? And so I kind of hung out there till he got home, explained the situation. They let me stay there for a night. And then from there, I just kind of stayed with friends. And I never really had a stable home. during most of my teenage years. And I thought, okay, I can't continue on this way. I need some kind of stability. What can I do? And the parents of my boyfriend at the time said, hey, we have this little camper in our backyard. You can stay there for a while. And it's like tiny, like the size of the Suburban I own now. Like that's how big the whole thing was. So I stayed there for a couple months. I got a job at a fast food restaurant because I lied about my age, and they hired me. So I was working full time, and I was going to high school full time. And eventually I had saved up enough money to rent a tiny little shack in the backyard of this other woman. And now when I say shack, I mean legitimate metal, uninsulated shack that had electricity and running water though. So like there was a toilet, there was a tiny little shower, there was electricity, and there was a bed, but that was still 10 times better than what I was currently staying in. So I did that for a little while. I was 16 years old at the time. But same thing, I had lied, said I was 18. It wasn't through a real estate agent, so she didn't really check any documentation. She just kind of took my word for it. And then I got caught because she saw me get on the school bus. She saw me get on the school bus one morning. And so when I came back, she stopped me and I had to totally come clean about it. Lucky for me, she was very cool about it though. She let me stay there because of my situation. And I just worked and went to school. I ended up graduating early from high school so I could work full time. So I graduated a year early. And then by the time I was 17, I got pregnant. I was a single mom from the beginning. And that's when I was like, okay, I really need to do better for myself because now it's not just me anymore. It's going to be me and my daughter. And so I hustled and hustled and hustled, and I climbed the ladder, and I went from working at a restaurant to working at a slightly better restaurant, to working at a veterinary clinic, to working at a bank, which kind of got me into the financial world. And then I was doing okay. And then eventually, years later, ending up getting married, becoming a financial advisor. And then from there, I mean, life has been pretty great, but that was kind of the journey that brought me to where I am today.
Wow. And what a journey. That's incredible. It's incredible that first of all, that you're here today because, being a kid out on your own is super scary and you're just vulnerable,
Yeah.
That's phenomenal that you made your own way. So when we talk about manifestation, right? Sometimes I get a lot of looks, you get a lot of side eye.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, from those that don't necessarily believe in it being possible or being real. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that me personally, I feel like a lot of that doubt comes from, maybe, some traumas or some things that have made life tough in our situation or that some situations that have made our lives tough. Mm-hmm. And then we don't necessarily have the room or capacity to believe that, we're capable of making a change on our own.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to learn how you were able to go from honestly being a kid that had a really tough upbringing to believing in manifestation. Because I think that it takes it. I think it would be harder no offense, but I think it would be hard for a person like you to believe in manifestation. I just have to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, for me, it did take time. During the peak part of my story, when I was just trying to make it, I was living in that shack. I was hustling and hustling and hustling. If somebody were to come up to me at that point in time and say, hey, you should look into manifestation, I'd be like, get your woo-woo stuff away from me. I'm not interested. That's not true. So at the time, I was not open to it at all. I actually didn't really get into it until about 3 years ago when finally I had, like I said, hustled, and got myself to a point where I was just okay, that I really started getting interested in personal development. So it was actually once I became a financial advisor is really when I started getting into it, because in that business, I was doing okay, but I wasn't doing great. I wasn't building the type of business I wanted to build. It just wasn't coming along the way I had hoped. And so that's when somebody had recommended the book, The Miracle Morning, to me. And that was kind of my first introduction to personal development. And once I read that book, I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I made this whole morning routine and I started working on my personal development. I saw changes in my business and I was really happy. But it only took me so far. And then it kind of stopped. And it was like a plateau. And it seemed like every personal development book that I could find was kind of, how to go from rock bottom to okay, how to get yourself back up again. And for me at the time, I was like, well, what if I'm okay now, but I want to be great? I want to get better. And that's when the spiritual manifestation type stuff kind of came into play. And then I was ready for it because I was in a spot where I was okay and I was stuck. So my thought process was, well, what do I have to lose? By at least looking into it and trying it and being open-minded to it, it's either going to work and my life's going to get better, or it's not going to work and I don't really lose anything. I just stay where I am.
And has it gotten better?
Oh, yeah. It got immediately better. Immediately. Actually, so let me tell you a quick story of the very first time I actually tried to implement anything. So there's a manifestation principle, a basic principle of embodiment, embodying who you want to become and living as them now. And so at the time, like I said, I was just kind of doing okay, stringing along, not really having any huge successes, but not failing either. I was just kind of in this mid-range state. And after kind of taking in some information and learning about embodiment, I thought, okay, I want to be the type of businesswoman who is successful. I have a handbag to go with every outfit, and I buy designer perfume. And that was like my first big step. So I remember I went out and I bought 7 new handbags from Ross, if I'm being honest. But the point is, I wanted to be the type of businesswoman who had a bag for every outfit. And so I went and I bought 7 new bags. And then I made my first designer purchase, which was some Chanel perfume. And so I remember I bought the bags, I bought the perfume, and I walked into my office the next day with a whole new level of confidence, spraying myself with that Chanel perfume and taking it in and going in with my new bags and just living as if that were my norm. Like, of course, I'm the type of businesswoman that has a bag for every outfit and has designer perfume, of course. And that was my very first big month in the industry. And then the next month, I took it a step further and said, I'm also going to be the type of advisor that has a really nice car. So I went to a dealership and designed my ideal car. I didn't even buy it yet. I just designed it. And then the next month was even bigger. And that was my first indication of, okay, maybe this isn't crazy. Maybe it actually works. And it's super fun to do.
That's amazing. So, okay, hold up. I have a question because you mentioned the Miracle Morning.
Yes.
Okay, tell me who that's by. Do you remember the author?
Yes, it's by Hal Elrod. And the whole concept of the book is creating a morning routine that's the most beneficial to you. Mine is different from the book now. At first, I did it exactly how the book said to do. And then from there, I just kind of like put my own spin on it to what works for me. But before that book, I was not making any time for myself, ever. It was always about the business or my kids. And there was no me time. I just didn't make the time. And once I started making the time for me to take care of myself first, that's when life got a whole lot less stressful. Things got easier. I was in better energy. And that was kind of like my initial turning point.
So you involved a lot of self-care then, and kind of taking, so that morning routine, or I'm sorry, that the Miracle Morning, that's kind of what that's about then, maybe about like you taking time for yourself.
Yep, you taking time for yourself and your own personal development too. So in the book, he calls them the morning savers, and it's I'm going to see if I remember all of them. It's SAVERS, and it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is journaling. And you're supposed to do 10 minutes of each, and that makes your entire hour-long morning routine. I found out I enjoy the journaling a lot more. So most of my morning is journaling, and I'll do the other things a little bit if I have time for all of them. But for me, just sitting down with my journal and getting clear on my desires and what I want to do and my accomplishments and how I'm feeling has made a really, really big difference. And like I said, that was kind of like my first taste of personal development. And then from there, I got into other books like Girl Code by Kara Alwill. Was kind of like a marriage of the traditional personal development mixed with some of the spirituality manifestation. And you know how you kind of like find one author and then it leads you to another author and it leads you to another author who's, you know, friends with another coach, who's friends with another coach. And that's kind of how you start finding everybody. That's kind of what happened. Is it all started with the Miracle Morning, and then it went to Kara Alwill. And then I was listening to her podcast, and she introduced her friend, Amanda Francis. So then through listening to Amanda Francis, I found Catherine Zenkina as another coach I really like to listen to. She's the founder of Manifestation Babe. So I just kind of ended up going down this rabbit hole and finding what works best for me and taking a little bit of everything I learned and trying to take all of that information and apply it to business. And that's where I found the most success.
So who is your go-to then for like manifestation guide, and like who's the person that Zoe says, okay, when I need a little inspiration or I need to, I don't know, reshift gears on my manifestation wheel, who do you listen to?
That's a hard question because I feel like there's so many. There's so many good coaches out there. There's so many good people out there, but I would say probably my top two would be Amanda Francis and Catherine Zenkina from Manifestation Babe. I love Amanda because she's all about empowering women with money. And then Catherine does the same thing too, but she also has just like a lot of feel good energy. Like anytime you just need to feel good and pep up your mood, that's who I listen to. So I'd say those two are probably my favorite.
Thank you so much for those recommendations. I'm going to look those ladies up because I have not heard of them. And so I love getting fed this type of information because it's exactly what you said. You know, it's all based on, hey, you know, I read this great book. This helped me. And I think that we all kind of possess a little bit of something like that the other person maybe has in their universe, their own little world. And I really love how passionate you are about manifestation. So whoever Zoe's going to about manifestation, I want to know because I want to be able to like effortlessly manifest. And I think that it's kind of tough sometimes. So let me ask you this then. Have you ever manifested something that then when you get it, you're like, I don't think I want this. I changed my mind.
You know what? Yes, a couple of times. But I will say I am still grateful for those things because they teach you a lesson. You walk away with some type of skill or knowledge or wisdom. So whenever, you know, you're manifesting something that you think you really want and you get it and you're like, oh, never mind. Well, one, now you're clear on what you don't want, which makes what you do want that much clearer. But two, you've got a whole new arsenal of lessons and skills and wisdom that you didn't have before. Which is why I often say, you know, when people are like, oh, I failed at this or I failed at that, I don't even think failure is a thing either. It's all lessons. Everything is always a lesson.
Always a lesson. There's something there that was intended for you to gain something from it.
Absolutely.
One of my very good friends, she always says life is happening for us, not to us.
Oh, 1000%. Yes.
yeah. Right. And it's about taking power and responsibility, and honestly, like, and when you do it, you kind of take control of it. You know, instead of thinking that all this stuff is just happening to you. No, it's me selecting the things or maybe calling the things to my life that I maybe didn't want, but it's something there for me to learn from it. So yeah, thanks for that. Okay, got a couple more questions. What then is your idea of success? We know it's got some shoes and bags in there.
Yeah. I do have a love for shoes and bags, and oh yes. But that's the thing, is not everybody does. So I feel like, to me, success is building the ideal life for you, having your dream life specific to you while feeling fulfilled and supported. So if that means that, your version of success is living on a farm with acreage and farm animals, and that's what makes you happy, then that is success for you. Or maybe you're like me and success means, making an impact in entrepreneurs' lives while also being able to travel and enjoy some luxury items, then that is success for me. So I think the real definition of success is being able to live the life unique to you that makes you the happiest and most fulfilled.
That was good. I have no words, but that was very I felt that 1,000%. Okay, cool. Well, Zoe, we are nearing the end of our interview, but I almost feel like I want to squeeze in one more question.
Yeah.
Cool with one more question? Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. What then is one piece of advice that you've received at a pivotal point in your personal life or career that you've made a part of your daily practice?
To trust yourself. To trust yourself so much that when somebody has something negative to say or something that maybe isn't the most supportive, it's not going to derail you from your goals and where you're going, because you have complete trust in yourself. I would say the most important thing is to trust yourself.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. That intuition is there for you. It's there to serve you.
It's life-changing. It really is. Whenever you can learn to trust yourself and listen to that inner voice, that intuition, you're never led astray, and you never look back and think, oh, well, what if I would have just gone for what I wanted to go for? Because if you trust yourself and you always go for what you want to go for, regardless of what anybody says, that's how you build your dream life.
And it's just that simple.
Oh, yeah. We don't have to make it complicated. And I feel like a lot of people do. We complicate it. We worry too much. We worry about being judged or making other people mad. And when we learn to kind of drop that baggage and just trust ourselves, we know what's best for us. So we can always trust ourselves.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, with that, you guys, trust yourself. Seriously. But thank you so much, Zoe. I think this is the end of our interview. I'm enjoying it. It feels like it just started, because I can literally talk about this all day. Oh,
me too. I feel like there's so many subtopics within manifestation that can be covered. If we talked about all of them, it would be like a 3-hour long podcast episode. It would have to be like a series.
It would have to be a series, because there's so much there.
Yeah.
There's so much there. But thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story and sharing where you are now, and the names of your manifestation go-to people. I'm going to look that up in the Miracle Morning. Yeah, that's going to be my next read.
So, it's a good one.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Thanks so much. Well, you guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is Vickie, encouraging you to love everything, everyone, and most importantly, yourself. Thanks, and take care.